We're going to continue our 1-point exterior drawing by adding a door to each one of our buildings. So I'm going to start with the building on my left-hand side of my road here, the scene that I've created, and I'm going to put it on the side that converges back in 3D space. So I'm going to put it right here, kind of in the center of the side that goes back. So I'm going to leave some space. I'm going to come over from the vertical that makes up the side of my building a little bit, and I'm going to draw a straight vertical that's parallel to the side of the building that is underneath my horizon line and stops when it hits the bottom of the line that converges back, that makes the bottom of the building. Then I'm going to come over again to the right of that line, leave myself some space, and I'm going to do another vertical. So a little bit taller, a little bit higher than the first one. And again, goes down, runs parallel to this side, the other side of the door, and stops again when it hits the bottom of that building. Now I'm going to have it converge back. So the bottom is already done for me because it's right there. It's going back to the vanishing point. We made that when we did the bottom of the building, but now I have to do the top of the doorway. So the top of the first vertical that I made for my door, that point right there where I let it end, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point in the center of my page, and then I'm going to draw back until those two lines meet. Kind of like so. Now, my door is not flush with my building. So in an interior, it's flushed with the wall. But at an exterior, it sits back inside the wall. So we see the thickness of the wall. And if a door or a window is on a building on the left side of my paper, then I'm actually going to see the thickness on the right side of that door or window. So the opposite is true on the other side. But let's start with this one. So on that door I just made, at the bottom of the second vertical that I just drew, where it met that converging line, I'm going to do a horizontal, again that's parallel to my parallel to my horizon line. I'm going to take that and I'm going to draw it in just a little bit. This method is exactly the same as what we did for our 1-point interior, except we're doing it at the bottom because it's below our horizon line. So since the door is below my horizon line, I'm seeing the bottom of it. So if I were to put windows here below my horizon line, I would see the bottom of the window as well as the side. And anything above my horizon line, I would see the top of. So if I put a window up here, I'm going to see the top of that window and the corresponding side. So where I ended that, I'm going to do a vertical straight up now until it meets the top of my door. So where that horizontal ended or is hanging out there in space, I'm going to draw verticals that's parallel to my picture plane, parallel to these straight verticals on the side of my building, up until it meets the top of my door frame. Now to finish that part out, so the corner where my vertical met my horizontal, that corner right here, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point in the center, and I'm going to draw down until it meets the bottom, or so it meets the other edge of my door. So that this is the door right here, and this is the thickness. So I'm going to lightly shade this thickness on the wall, and I'm going to shade a little bit darker the thickness on the sidewalk or the cement at the bottom. So there's a door on that side. I'm going to do one more for you together. I'm going to do another door on the right-hand side. And then I want you to draw doors on each one of your other buildings. So let's do the door that maybe here, not on the first building. We'll put it here on the second one back. So again, from that vertical that's ended the side of this building on the right, I'm going to come to the right of that just a little bit. And I'm going to do a straight vertical that's parallel again to the side of my building. It's going to come down underneath not going to hit my horizon line, it's going to be underneath that, and it's going to stop when it gets to the bottom of that converging line that went back towards my vanishing point that ended that side of the building. So I'm going to give it some space. I'm going to make a really wide door this time. So from this vertical that's the other side of my building, the side that converges back in 3D space, I'm going to come to the left of that just a little bit, and I'm going to do another vertical, again parallel to the first one that I made, underneath my horizon line, and it goes down until it touches the bottom of that building before it converges back. So I've got this really wide door. So just like I did on this side, I'm going to take the top of that vertical I just made. I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point in the center, and I'm going to draw towards the center. So it lines up with my vanishing point in the center. I'm going to draw towards the center until those two verticals meet. So I have this really big door. Now I'm going to divide this into two in just a moment here, but first I'm going to do the thickness. So again, just like I did here, I'm going to see the thickness on the side of the wall as well as at the bottom because it's below my horizon line. So since it's on a building on the right-hand side of my paper, I'm going to actually see the thickness of the wall on the left-hand side of the door in this case. So at the bottom here, where that first vertical I drew met my converging line, I'm going to do a horizontal in towards my door that's parallel to my horizon line. Then I'm going to bring this vertical straight up. So where I let that hang out in space there, I'm going to draw a vertical straight up from that point, where I let that horizontal end, straight up until it meets the top of my door frame. So I've got this side, I'm going to lightly shade this side right here. Then here, where that vertical met that horizontal that I made, that point right there, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point in the center, but I'm going to draw down in the opposite direction. So that point lines up with my vanishing point in the center, and I'm going to bring that line down. And that's the one that I'm going to shade a little bit darker because that's on the floor or the ground, the cement there. So now if I want to make this double doors, all I have to do is put a line, a vertical, in the center. So my verticals stay nice and straight up and down, parallel with the side of my paper. So underneath the top goes down until it meets the line of my cement. And I can put little doorknobs on there or little bars to open those doors. But that is doors on the bottom of my building in 1-point perspective. I want you to continue by adding a door to each one of your 6 buildings. So you have to draw 4 more. I am going to continue by making windows. So I'm going to make a window on each one of my buildings here. So I'm going to start with the building here in the way back on my left-hand side. So windows work the same as a door. I'm going to start with straight verticals. So here on the side of that building, that vertical, I'm going to come to the right of that, give myself a little bit of space, and I'm going to draw a line, a vertical that doesn't touch the top of my converging line, and it doesn't touch my horizon line either. And I'm going to do this as a big set of windows. So I'm going to again come on the vertical here that ended the side of that building. I'm going to come in from that to the left a little bit. I'm going to do another vertical that's underneath, doesn't touch the top of that building, and it doesn't touch the horizon line either. So I've got my 2 verticals, but now it's on a side that converges back in space, so that means that it has to converge back in space too. So I'm going to take the top of that vertical that I made first for this building set of windows. I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point in the center, and then I'm going to draw down towards my vanishing point until those 2 verticals meet. Do the same thing for the bottom. So the bottom of that first vertical that I drew to make this window is going to line up with my vanishing point in the center again, and I'm going to draw until those 2 verticals meet. And then I can erase off my extra little bits here. And again, this window I can see through because it's transparent, so I need to see the thickness of the side of the wall and the ceiling here. So since it's above my horizon line, I'll see the top of that window. And since again, it's on the left buildings on the left-hand side of my paper here, I'm going to see this thickness on the right side of that window that I just constructed. So here, since it's at the top, I'm going to take the top of that vertical that's closest to my vanishing point here on the right side of my building. I'm going to take the top of that where the converging line met the vertical, and I'm going to do a horizontal in towards my window there. Nice straight horizontal that's parallel to my horizon line. And then where I let this end, I'm going to bring a vertical straight down. So vertical straight down until it meets the bottom of my window frame. So I'm going to lightly shade that one because that's the thickness of the wall in this case. Now where my horizontal met my vertical, right here, that point where those two connected, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point in the center, but I'm going to draw back towards the other side of the window. So that point lines up with the vanishing point in the center, and I draw back until it meets the other side of, and I'm going to shade this one a little bit darker so it meets the other side of that window there. And that's one really, really long window. If I wanted to break it into two, I could just draw a line in between the two. And since I want it to have a little bit of space, as if this was the wall continuing between there, I'm going to come from that vertical I just drew, I'm going to come over to the right of that a little bit, and I'm going to draw another vertical. So I've got these two windows. I'm going to erase out the extra kind of between there so you can see them as two separate windows. So I have a window here and a window on the other side. To complete this one, since I broke it into two, I need to do a horizontal straight in until it meets that converging line at the top. So I brought a horizontal straight in until it meets that converging line. And then I'm going to drop a vertical straight down until it meets the bottom of that window. Erase out my little extra parts inside there. So that I'm going to lightly shade this side. So that these are both windows, but I can see through the wall. So I separated them by having some of this wall of the actual building show through by starting with some verticals right there that's spaced between them. And then I erased out that so you could see it as two separate windows and added in the thickness on the other side window by just adding a horizontal straight across until it met my converging line, and then a vertical straight down until it met the bottom converging line. I want you to make then windows for each one of these buildings. So I've shown you how to do two doors, one on each side. I showed you how to do a window on one side. The same principles apply to the other side. You're just going to make sure that the thickness, if you're doing buildings on the right-hand side, and they're above the horizon line, you'll see the thickness at the top, just like we did on the left. The thickness on the left-hand side of those windows.